Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Healing Lounge. Today we have a special guest. We have Brandon Partin. Welcome to the show. Um, Today we're excited to dive into the world of fitness, mindset, and personal growth with Brandon Partin, NASM certified personal trainer and the founder of Brandon Partin Online Fitness Coaching. At just 29 years old, Brandon has built a thriving online fitness coaching business, helping busy men over 30 gain muscle, build strength, and boost their confidence. Through personalized workout plans, meal guidance, and accountability, he empowers his clients to stay consistent and achieve their fitness goals. More than just physical training, Brandon believes that mindset is everything when it comes to success. His faith in God and commitment to personal growth fuel his passion for coaching and helping others push beyond their limits. Join us as we talk about building strength, inside and out, the power of discipline, and how fitness can be a life-changing tool for self-improvement. Brandon, thank you so much for being here and taking the time out of your busy schedule to be here with us today at the Healing Lounge. Thank you. And yes, how are you doing today?
Well, I appreciate it. I'm glad to be here on the Healing Lounge. And I'm doing really well. I do, again, appreciate your time, and I'm really excited to talk about, not only my business, but a lot of the connections related to, how, the impact that fitness has on us. So I really do appreciate your time.
It is my pleasure. Thank you. Yes, here at the Healing Lounge, we focus on the topic of mind, body, spirit. And the focus of the Healing Lounge is to promote holistic practitioners, nonprofits, companies, organizations, and talk about health, talk about spiritual health, alignment to purpose and mission. And yes, I'm really excited to have you on and hear your story and share that with the world. So thank you. Yes. So yes, let's start off with what inspired you to become a personal trainer and start your own coaching business?
Well, that's a pretty big question. Um, so one of the big things that sort of got me inspired is it's a really long story, but the way that I can sort of explain it is that I've always been somebody that's really wanted to help people. But one of the things that I struggled with a lot in trying to get to finding something like a career or some kind of business or building anything was that I had issues with my mental health. So, you know, not diving deep into my past, but I had a lot of issues, as far as in my adult years, I'm reaching 30. But over the years, it was really difficult for me to hold a job because of having issues with anxiety, having issues with depression, and a lot of things of that nature. And so whenever I was, kind of in high school and and at that time, I used to really like health. I used to take health classes when I was younger, and I knew that I could never be a doctor or somebody in that field, but I was really interested in the topic itself. And so, over the years, I went through different things that I wanted to do. And personal training was one thing that just kind of struck me and it connected with me because it was something that I feel like was more accessible to me. It was something that I could do within, sort of my limitations of, as far as my mental health and being able to help people at the same time while also being, not necessarily comfortable, but being able to actually, do impactful work. And that's why I chose, personal training is because I wanted to do something to where I could help others and that I can, relate that back to my own experience, if that makes sense. It's a lot of it has to do with that because I just felt like I wanted to take a leap of faith. I wanted to try something new, something that, even though I was kind of struggling, I couldn't stick to jobs. I feel like, why not try this? I enjoy exercising. I've always been into health. So I felt like this was the best decision to make, as it relates to that.
That's great. I love that you mentioned taking a leap of faith. That is very powerful right there. And thank you for sharing that. What are some challenges that you've dealt with as a solopreneur in the fitness industry so far?
So I think the hardest part for me getting started is or was I think my business has grown a lot since, I got started, but one of the things I think I struggled with was trying to figure out where to start, of course. I think that was the hardest part. And two, I wanted to focus on online coaching because I wanted to try to reach a broader audience. And I knew that I needed to get certified as a trainer, in order to build that sort of credibility on what I have to offer. Of course, I got certified through NASM and I started studying, figure out what I needed to do to get that certification. And then from there, after I got certified, I decided, I wanted to try to build a business. And that was the most daunting thing to try to figure that out. And there's still stuff that I'm learning. I mean, it's like a constant, just overwhelming amount of stuff to learn when it comes to especially being solo and a lot of stuff you're learning yourself. And the way that I got started is I had a few business coaches that kind of helped me sort of get me on my feet to figure out how I need to structure my business as far as doing solo and how I interact with potential clients and anybody who's just interested in online coaching. And so it was just all, absorbing that information. And for the longest time, I worked with an online coach and I stayed with him for a year. And I was so invested into it. Like I was showing up because he did live streams it was like every 2 days a week. And I showed up consistently every time just to, really take in all this information because I really wanted to make this work. And, I wanted to really I just knew that there was something here, as far as building this business. And I knew that it would make a difference if I did it. And I knew that it would really I just knew that I could really accomplish this. And so, I put in as much effort as I could. And, once I got my first client, it kind of progressed from there. And I started to learn the ins and outs. I mean, there's a lot of things I could explain, but as far as when I got started, I got certified and then, I started to find some online coaching or coaches online that, worked with other, smaller businesses. And that's sort of where I got a little bit of knowledge on how to get started and just, sort of progress from there.
Wow, sounds like a really awesome journey. Thank you so
Yeah.
much for sharing that. And a lot of training, right? I love how you mentioned that you got certified with an NASM. For anyone out there who is not aware or who doesn't know what NASM is, can you share a little bit of that and who they are?
So NASM is known as the National Academy of Sports Medicine. And you can get certified through multiple different, organizations that are credible as far as for personal training. Before I got started, I researched a lot on who I felt would be the best option and be the most, I guess my choice was to get the most prestigious, type of certification. I wanted the best of the best. And from what I researched, NASM was always, the one that always popped up. And so, I did coaching online. It's very simple. There's not, a whole lot to it. It takes roughly a year or so to get your certification. You do have to go through like a whole course. It's really kind of self-paced how you get there, but it, explains all the ins and outs as far as fitness, nutrition, and just, how you know, program clients, how you interact with clients and things of that nature. And again, the reason why I got that certification was to build credibility because I think it's important. And I think if you're looking for somebody, especially a personal trainer, that you would want to have somebody that knows what they're doing, that has that experience, that has, you know, the knowledge to be able to give them the proper programming. And so that's why I chose them, because they've always shown up. They've been known as one of the best organizations when it comes to personal training. So that was my choice, and I kind of went from there. And I still actually do study courses. I have to keep my certification, I have to consistently, do continuing education courses, or they're called CEUs, where I have to get credits and, recertify every 2 years. So it's like a constant learning thing. And I still, even though like after I got, my certification, and, I've been training for roughly, would say about 3 or 4 years at this point, I still really enjoy the courses that they have. I still enjoy just learning all the, even the continuing education stuff. Like I still enjoy it. It's something that doesn't get old to me. So that's the main reasoning, of course, why I chose them, because of their credibility.
Wow, thank you so much for sharing that. I had no idea. Why is it so important, especially when looking, like say for example, someone's looking for a trainer, for an online coach. Why is it so important to find someone who is certified compared to someone who is not certified?
Now, as far as that question, I understand, you don't necessarily have to be certified in order to be a good personal trainer. To me, I just think that having that really shows that you've put in the effort to really get the full knowledge of what it takes to be a trainer. So, again, like you mentioned, and I mean, you don't necessarily have to have a certification, but to me, if I was pursuing somebody as far as trying to get a trainer myself, or, anything of that aspect, even like if I was looking for maybe like a nutrition coach, or if I was looking for anybody in that sort of field, I would want to have somebody that has kind of went through the experience of knowledge of knowing how to properly, give that information to somebody. And so that's why I think it's important to do that. I think it just gives you more credibility and I think it makes you more of a presence, and just more solidified, I guess, in fitness, if that makes sense.
It does make sense. And yes, I get it. It's important to find people who know what they're talking about, who implement their practices, and who not only talk the talk, but also walk the walk as well.
Right.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. You emphasize mindset in achieving fitness goals, especially in our earlier conversation before recording. How important is it, and what mental shifts do people need to succeed?
So this is actually a good question, and this is one that I talk about a lot, and especially to my clients. Actually, not only to my clients, but anybody I talk to and I, do calls with, as far as just that they're interested in coaching or anything of that sort. Mindset is the most important thing. And the way that I understood, as far as really emphasizing mindset and really, getting across to clients, is the experience I've had myself. Before I actually got started with, becoming a trainer, and before I got certified, I really didn't understand, the really the structure of fitness. And again, that kind of goes back to mentioning, about why I got certified. But I didn't have a proper structure. And whenever I started getting really big into weightlifting, I was working out like 6 days a week, like constant, nonstop. And I didn't understand that my body needed rest and I needed to slow down. And so I was having this mindset of where I just wanted to get it, but you can't just be relentless like that. You have to have a balance with, having rest and recovery and things of that nature, and you have to slow down. Um, and what I'm trying to get to when we're going back to mindset is there was a time whenever I was in my routine where I hit a plateau and I felt like I just wanted to stop. I just wanted to give up because it seemed pointless. I was putting in all this effort and I just feel like I wasn't getting any results from what I was doing. And keep in mind, this was before, I was just doing my own fitness journey, trying to figure out how I wanted to build my physique, and that was my main goal. And when I hit the plateau, I basically was just going through these thoughts on, quitting and just stopping and, just go about like what I did before, basically. And one of the thoughts that came into mind, and this is something that I mentioned to a lot of people I talk to, like clients or anybody, in general, if they're like struggling with mindset, is one thing I always, sort of relay back to myself, and I still think about it to this day, is if I quit, of course, not going to get any results. The results are not going to happen. It's not going to happen if I just stop. But if I go, the results may not be as quick as I want them. They may take a little bit longer, but the results will happen. And that's something I always tell myself is understanding the difference between putting in a small amount of effort consistently rather than just giving up. And that's one of my main philosophies, and just mentioning to clients is it's all about shifting your mindset into focusing on your small habits, changing those little habits and really focusing on step by step rather than feeling like you have to completely overcome a mountain, And so that's one thing I always mention is that it's more about your consistency and your discipline and just showing up, doing some form of effort, no matter what percentage of effort, as long as you're showing up and you're trying, that's all that matters. You just don't need to quit. You just need to keep showing up, doing the best that you can, and go from there.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that. That's very inspiring. I know on your bio it mentioned that you help busy men over 30. What is it about that age group or why over 30?
So originally, I had actually tried to gear my training towards younger clients, but it seemed like as I've gotten older and as I've just really matured in certain ways, I feel like I wanted to reach another demographic or older demographic because I feel like that, a lot of times there's people that, are older that sort of neglect their health a little bit more, whereas younger people are a little bit more mindful of specific things. And so, like exercise and things of that nature. And I feel like as we get older, a lot of people start to neglect that. And so that's why I sort of chose to reach out to, more older men and really, help that age group. And I've really enjoyed it. I mean, I've worked with a wide range of men. I've worked with men, of course, in their 30s. I've had a client that's in his 40s before, and I have a client that's in his 60s that I work with. And it's really given me a good, overview. And all of these clients have had really great experiences with me. I mean, what they've told me, they really enjoyed what I've given them. They've really enjoyed, being very, very vocal and really, being there for them and coaching them, and that's one thing I do mention, is that a lot of my coaching is very much about having a personal connection with my clients rather than just throwing out a workout plan or throwing out a nutrition plan and just saying, this is it. You know, I wanted my experience with them to be focused on somebody that they can relate to, that they can talk to. And so that's a big part of my coaching is the relationship side of things and being somebody, not just a coach, but somebody that you can connect with and know that they're there to support you. But again, going back to the age group, I just feel like that it's older people kind of neglect their health a little bit more. And I felt like that's what I wanted to do was to focus on that group and give them a little bit more insight and tell them that just because they're getting older, just because it's something I've noticed myself, like I've thought about a lot of things as I've aged and, just getting closer to 30. even though I still am pretty young, I still, matured in my thought process. So I'm thinking about, how am I going to feel when I get, to this age if I don't take care of myself? Just little things like that I think about now that I wouldn't have thought about when I was like, in my early 20s or whatever. And so that's the reason why is I want to let them know that it is possible to reach their goals. It may take longer, naturally as our bodies age, it does make it a little bit harder for us to do certain things, for us to, as far as metabolism and things of that nature, but it is possible to reach your goals. I've had clients that have done it. My client that is in his 60s, of course, I'm not going to say any names or anything, but he's very consistent. He shows up. He really is like ecstatic about everything I give him. He loves it. And he has so much energy and he's gaining muscle. And so it's possible. It doesn't matter what, age you are. It is possible when it's just your consistency. And again, it goes back to mindset,
Thank you for that answer, and thank you for that
which
insight. What are some biggest fitness mistakes that you see that are being done right now in any age demographic and in over 30?
so as far as that, there's quite a few different things that I could mention. As far as it relates to fitness, I feel like there's a lot of really, I don't want to say misinformation or anything to that effect, but really just misunderstood concepts when it comes to exercise. And especially like with, like when we're talking about one thing I can mention very specifically, when we're talking about like, weightlifting and cardio, a lot of people associate cardio as the go-to option all the time. Like it's just the go-to. It's always associated with, how to better your health, getting on the treadmill and things of that nature. When in fact, mostly you're getting more effects, even if you're somebody who's focusing on, say, fat loss or just focusing on overall health, you're getting more benefits when you are doing weight training from, just weightlifting rather than just doing cardio alone. So that's one thing I noticed that a lot of people really neglect the importance of, doing a little bit of strength training. It doesn't have to be a lot, of course. You're not, being a bodybuilder, of course. You just focus on just a small amount of, weightlifting. But a lot of people, of course, associate a lot of cardio, as the go-to when you're getting way more health benefits when it comes to strength training. It increases your metabolism. It really helps with your joints. I mean, as you age, it helps a ton. So that's one thing that I do feel like many people are not aware of the benefits of that versus just focusing on, the really simple things that we all know, especially like when we're focusing, a little bit on nutrition side of things, many people focus on carbs a lot. Carbs gets thrown around a ton now, but it's not that carbs are bad. It's just about the types of carbs you consume. So it's more so that people just focus on a lot of the surface, level stuff and they don't dive deeper. And I feel like that's the big thing, is just those basic aspects, and I constantly have to, really not correct, my clients are correct, anybody, but just show them that there's a better approach, to these things.
Yes, it seems like there's a lot that goes into it.
Right. Yeah.
Yes. How do you see supplements or supplementation as part of the fitness journey?
So I actually see it as being very beneficial. And I'm not going to say that you have to rely on supplements because you don't have to. I take supplements myself for my specific goal. It can be beneficial to take supplements, especially when you're focusing on muscle gain. I take, pre-workout supplement, I take creatine, and, I take whey protein. And so those supplements, if you're focusing on muscle gain, can be very beneficial. But again, like when we're talking about supplements, it's not like you need them, they're there to help support your diet. So that's why they're called supplements. And a lot of people, that can be another thing that people have a misconception of, is that they just think that they can drink a protein shake and that's it. it's not, it's a little bit more than that. You got to have a well-rounded diet, and a good nutrition to be able to get the benefits of that protein shake. So it's just, there's a little bit more to it. But for everybody, it's not for everybody as far as supplements. If you get a good diet, you really don't need supplements. But like I said, for me, I do take them because I'm focusing on performance. Of course, this is all, I'm talking about, legal stuff, supplements that you can take that is, normal and has been researched, especially creatine. A lot of people associate creatine with different things and they think of it like as steroids. This has nothing to do with that. This is a natural supplement. But again, it's just dependent on what your goals are and, if that's something that you want to focus on. Like I said, I think it's really more geared towards people for muscle gain related to the supplements I talk about. But of course, there's other supplements that you could take that can be beneficial in a lot of ways. Like pre-workout can be good for, really giving you energy before your workout. It doesn't necessarily have to be for like muscle gain purposes. You could use that in different ways. But it's just primarily on your goals. And if you feel like you have, some holes in your diet that you want to fill, to supplement with, that's what it's there for.
I love that. Thank you so much for
Of
sharing that. And
course.
yes, there's a lot of misconception and information out there about supplements, especially when it comes to natural health supplements and vitamins and vitamin therapy and all of that. But it's a really good idea to research what fits for you, what works for you, and it goes in hand, doesn't it, with when it comes to what your goal is, what your fitness goal is, what
Right.
supplements to take. And that coincides with food. Is that correct?
Yes, exactly. That's like whey protein. It's there if you're lacking protein in your diet, and it's a really great option if you just maybe, again, it can be good for people who have a really busy schedule. And if you're trying to really hit, a protein goal, that's a good way to do that, where you're not having to just make out a whole meal and get, enough, grilled chicken or any kind of meat in your diet. You don't have to worry about that. You can just do that. But still, throughout your day, it's more about how you spread out your intake as far as protein to be able to get what you need. You don't have to consume a whole amount at once. It's all about spreading it out. And when you don't have enough, you can use that protein as a way to, supplement that. Of
Thank you for that. And what
course.
would you say to what if people can't eat meat or they're on a vegetarian or vegan lifestyle?
So there's actually other options. I've actually tried one of those other options, and they do have plant-based whey protein. I know. I have tried that. They're still just as good as just consuming, just the regular whey protein. As far as the supplement, realm of things, there's a lot of different new things now. I mean, like you can find so many other options outside of just the typical options now. So it's more, open to people who have different diets who may not, consume meat. I mean, so again, there's plant-based protein that you can find. Even for me, like whenever I take protein, and I don't necessarily have a vegan diet or anything of that sort, but I do kind of have lactose intolerance, so I usually have almond milk with protein. There's different things that you can do, to sort of add a little bit, of your own flavor to things, to be in your own diet and whatever you want to focus on.
I love that you pretty much kind of adapt to people's lifestyle situations, the things they can't have due to whatever reason. But yeah, it's very important, and that's where again, someone who has experience and is certified comes in handy. So that way, you know what to offer in
Right.
the programs that you have. How has your faith in God, how has your spirituality influenced your approach to fitness and coaching?
It's really influenced a lot. And again, I don't want to dive too much into my faith, as far as God and my beliefs. But as far as, my my whole philosophy of things, it's had a big impact. Where I'm at today is a lot of the reasons because of that, because of my faith and because of, really just, putting that at the forefront of what I do. Of course, I don't center, the clients that I work with around my faith. They may have other belief systems or anything, as far as what what clients I serve. I'm willing to help anybody, as far as that's concerned. But a lot of the building blocks in my business has been based on my faith. It's really what has got me to where I'm at, and I believe it's why my business has grown, because I've placed a lot of faith in God, and I always trust in His plan. But again, whenever I'm serving people, my main goal is to help them regardless of whatever background that they have, that they have support. And I think that kind of goes into a little bit of the relationship aspect of things with my clients, because I feel like it's important to have a human connection with people. I feel like, now a lot of things that I notice with a lot of coaches, it just becomes this really, a lot of coaches focus a lot on physique and this and that, and it's just all about how you look. And that's, of course, that's part of it. That is part of, getting healthier and, weightlifting and things of that nature. But I think you need to really focus on people, really understanding people, and focus on giving them good knowledge and value on that. And as far as, again, going back to the faith side of things, that's a lot of it. That's why I have that thought process, is that you really need to connect with people. You don't see them as dollar signs. You see them as people that are looking for a solution. They're looking for help, and that's the way that I see it. And I just think that that's really, really important to get that across.
Yes, great answer. Thank you for sharing that. And you're right, it's all about people. It's very important to build that connection, that one-on-one connection, and you find alignment into the people that come into your life, whether they're coaches or they're clients or they're just people in general. There's just alignment, and that's very,
Right.
very something that should be celebrated. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, of
Um,
course.
yes. People usually, I'm not going to say usually, but some people struggle with confidence in the gym. How do you help clients overcome that?
So that is something that comes up very often
Mm.
um, whenever I'm talking to, potential clients, even clients that I've worked with. Um, but I have actually helped them, overcome that obstacle. And that was something that I could relate to myself. Whenever I got started in getting, into the gym, I remember years ago, my dad got me into working, or he tried to get me into working out at the time, but I wasn't having it at that time because I was really young. I was still in high school, but he was trying to get me to weightlift, and I just didn't like it at that time. I was just kind of, a lot of it had to do with me being uncomfortable with everybody else, and that was a big part of it. And so I tried again, of course, throughout the years as I became an adult, and it's still something that I sort of worried about. And so it took me kind of a long time to really overcome that obstacle, just worrying about what others are thinking about me, when I'm exercising or whatever. And so with my clients, that's one thing that I do, and even somebody who I'm just talking to, a potential client, that's one thing I always mention, is that I do have that experience. A lot of that, kind of goes back to, the mental health side of things and just anxiety in general. And it's hard. I mean, it is hard to really go into the gym, especially when you're new to that environment. I've had a client that started with me. He's been working with me for, I want to say, almost 3 years. He's been with me for a while. And whenever he started, he was doing just body weight, exercises. I have him just programmed to do body weight exercises because he was really uncomfortable with the gym. He wanted to exercise, but he just didn't like that environment. And I told him, that's fine. I'm willing to, if somebody has that limitation or anything like that, I'm willing to work around that, you know. But I do, get to a certain point to where there's a limit to what I can give them, especially if they have specific goals. Like when you're talking about weightlifting and, building muscle, there's a certain point where you do have to program, based on using, weights, if you're wanting to gain muscle. And so, it took me a while to really, help him get over that hurdle, but he did. And he's actually not too long ago just started going to the gym. He enjoys it. I've been programming, weightlifting, types of exercises for him, and he enjoys it. He likes the environment. He still says that he's, kind of still feels uncomfortable sometimes, that he kind of goes in there and does his own thing. And that's fine, but the fact that he's able to overcome that, that feeling is, to me, I was really excited about that, to see that he was able to do that because, even though we're not talking about, him progressing as far as like, if he's gaining muscle or anything of that nature, but the fact that he's shifting his mindset and he's shifting his approach on going into an uncomfortable environment like that, and that's kind of what it takes. You kind of have to do that to progress in certain ways. You have to put yourself in those uncomfortable situations. And as you continue to do that, it becomes to where it's just a habit, you're used to it, and it's something that you don't worry about as much. You may still get uncomfortable. Sometimes I do at the gym. Sometimes I still have that old thought of wondering what people think, even though I look totally different than I did years ago. I still kind of have that thought. So even though you may still feel uncomfortable, the fact that you're able to overcome something like that, because even I know for some people, just stepping into the gym is hard. It's hard to just get in that environment because it's completely new, especially if you don't have any experience with weightlifting or anything like that, So, you know, again, I think a lot of it has to do with mindset and just being willing to challenge yourself.
That is very important. Thank you so much for that answer. And
Of
yeah,
course.
you mentioned a lot there. There's a lot of gold nuggets there. Something that stood out to me was, especially with that question is the confidence in the gym and why people feel the way they do when they're in that environment and going in, training not only on your muscles, but also training your mindset to overcome that quote unquote fear or anxiety that in its own training. So it puts people out of place and up in a position where they're just a little uncomfortable, but maybe it's designed that way to kind of help them overcome that
Right.
anxiety or that uncomfortability that they feel
Right.
in a new environment. So that's pretty amazing. Thank you for that.
Of course.
What's one life lesson that you've learned or any life lessons, plural, that you've learned from coaching that applies outside of fitness?
I mean, that's actually a really good question. I think one thing that I've learned a lot, being a coach is really being able to understand, people better, to understand sort of, that everybody's kind of got their own situation they're going through. What's really unique too is that actually being a coach has built a lot of my, own social skills, I think, in a lot of ways to be able to communicate with people better. I think that's a big thing too that I've noticed because I'm always communicating with clients. I'm doing Zoom calls with them, and it doesn't get old. I mean, it's just one thing that I really enjoy whenever, when it gets to the end of the month, I usually always schedule check-in calls with clients. And this is one thing I really enjoy every time because, even though I don't know what to expect, they may be having setbacks, but most of the time it's usually, hearing good things and that they're progressing. And I think just that feeling alone is just, there's no better feeling than that, just that rewarding feeling. And, as far as relating that back to a life lesson, I just think it's made a difference in how I approach, how I, communicate with people better, how I understand people better. And again, just really seeing people in a different way, and knowing that, we all don't know everything. Like all of us are trying to learn something, we're trying to figure something out. And, I just think that that's really, there's just something about that, that's just really connects with me. And again, I think it's really changed as far as, especially my anxiety is it's changed, it shifted a lot since I became a coach and how I feel about certain things. And I just think that that's the big aspect of it is just, really connecting with people on a different level.
Thank you so much for sharing that. That's very powerful, to do something that you love to do and sharing that with others. And it's also helping you align to more of your purpose and finding new things about yourself. So that's amazing. Thank you.
Appreciate that.
Yes. What are some important things or important questions to ask as a client to someone who's looking for a coach?
As far as that, what I would say is I would look for somebody who is really, I don't want to say, I mean, all of us have to start somewhere, but I think somebody who's got a little bit of experience and somebody who is willing to connect with you as an individual. Again, going back to sort of what I mentioned before about, other coaches, and I'm not saying anything negative towards other coaches, but I feel like the perception about a lot of other personal trainer and coaches is that they're kind of, arrogant and this and that. And so I just think that there needs to be more people out there, especially if somebody, if you're looking for somebody, I think really take your time in finding somebody that connects with you. And I just think that's the important side of all of it is, again, it's it's just too much about the physique side of things, and we need to focus on really, understanding individuals rather than, yeah, we want to help build their physique, but I just think you need to, focus on finding somebody who's willing to understand your problem and willing to really dissect that problem and give you the solution rather than just all this flashy stuff, if that makes sense.
Yes, it does. And yes, it's important to ask these questions and find that connection. And you feel it, energy is
Right.
energy, and it's all about alignment for that. What advice do you have for someone who wants to start their own online coaching business or their own fitness program or business?
That's a big question too. I would say, it's possible. I mean, I can say that, if you're somebody who's really passionate about, health and fitness, I think it's a great option. If you do have limitations where, maybe you don't have, the funds to be able to go to college or this and that, I think it's a great option. And I think as far as building a business, it is a challenge. It's a big challenge, but it's been one of the most rewarding things I think I've ever done, in my life. It's just again, it's so different to work for yourself and to kind of be in control. Like for the longest time, I used to not be used to coaching people. I was never that type of person before. And it took me a while to be like, I kind of had that imposter syndrome, where I feel like I don't even know if this is me, I don't even know if I'm supposed to be doing this, but you're going to feel that way. It doesn't matter if it's something that you're passionate about, you're going to kind of have that feeling to where I don't, I'm just starting out. I don't know if this is the right thing, and you're going to know once you get adjusted to it, once you get your feet wet and everything. But I think, as far as for somebody who is, wanting to become, online coach or do personal training, let's say, of course, do your research, really, understand what it takes, and especially the business side of things, understand what it takes. And if you're willing to put in all the effort, because it does take a lot of energy when it comes to a business. And especially for me, one of the things that I used to worry about with my business was taxes. And that's still kind of a thing that I worry about, just making sure that I have that in line. But I've been following, my taxes for the past few years on my business. And I really, I'm somebody who's very specific with, I keep track of everything. I'm that type of person. So if you're that type of person and you're really like, you know, not a perfectionist per se, but if you're somebody who's really focused on having everything in line and having everything, sort of organized, then you would be perfect for, something as far as, doing coaching or building a business or anything in that effect. And I do think it takes a specific kind of person. Like you have to be willing to, juggle a lot of different things at once. And, again, I think it's possible for anybody. It's just really, I think it kind of connects with mindset. And, really, are you willing to be consistent with this? Are you willing to, take time to be with your clients? Are you willing to build out workout plans? Are you willing to really market yourself? It's a lot of different things. So again, I hope that that's a good answer to that question, but it is possible. It's just I do think it's for certain types of, a certain type of person.
That's a great answer. Thank you. Thank you so much
Mhm.
for that. There's a lot, right? There's a lot to
Mhm.
unpack there in that answer, and it takes a lot to become
Right.
your own, be your own boss, to have your own business, especially when it comes to helping others to become other versions of themselves, pretty
Mhm.
much. In that sense, when it comes to how busy people get in running their own business, how do you balance your personal fitness, your business, and your personal life? How does that look like?
So that's actually a good question, and that's something I feel like is really something a lot of people need to understand a little bit better. For me, when I got started, I was really kind of sporadic and I didn't have a really good structure at all. And I burnt out really quick. Like it didn't take me long because I was kind of going all in and I just, was kind of just all over the place. But one thing you have to have is you have to have a structure. You need to plan out your days. That's one thing that I do. I'm kind of old school where I have like an old planner and I, write down these are the things I'm doing this time of day, and just making a whole list of what needs to be done. You got to be a little bit of, have some structure. As far as like, balancing my time, I kind of do it in the same way you would kind of do a normal job, where of course you come in, you work from this time to this time. And that's kind of the way that I structure my time. And it may not be, best for everybody. It may work different for, other people. But I feel like if you have a set time when you're starting and you say, I'm going to stop here, whatever work, get, what I can by that time, but I'm going to stop here because if I just keep trying to stack on tasks, it's never going to end. So that's the way that I see it is kind of, really having a good idea of what task you're going to do at this time and then sort of going down the list. And that's the way I do it. As far as my work days, I always end at a specific time. And then on the weekends, I do work a little bit, but it's not even, it's a shorter amount of time. So it's just depending on how you want to do your schedule. I mean, it's really flexible what you could do because you're working for yourself, but you still kind of have to have a limit to, your days so that you're not becoming overwhelmed and everything. And that's what I had to learn is that, like for me, because I'm more, just an organized type person, I had to write down what I needed to do to get a good overview. And I do that every week. Like I'll sit down and I know that's old school, but I'll just write down because I like to have a planner and I like to see it in front of me instead of just having a screen where I'm having to go back and forth to. And so that's why I do it that way. But it's possible. You just have to have whatever time works for you, optimize your time properly, basically.
I love that. And thank you for bringing up burnout. Burnout is
Mhm.
it's out there, especially with people
Mhm.
that are trying to start their own business, whether it's a coaching program or just your business in general. We get out of the 9 to 5 structure only to enter into another 9 to 5
Right.
structure. However, we are the boss, but we are also the
Mhm.
employee, and we're also the bookkeeper, and we're also all of these things. And we
Right.
I can see how burning out can be is pretty much it's out there for sure. I experienced that in my early entrepreneurship. However, yes, structure is very important, and thank you for bringing that up
Mhm.
because that goes with everything. We require
Mhm.
structure, we require boundaries, and we require self-care. We require a lot of rest. And even though we want to, and we're really, really excited and passionate about what we're doing, we need to just give ourselves that time to rest. Yeah, so thank you for that answer. If you can, please share one thing that you want the audience to know. What is the one thing that you want the audience to know about fitness, mindset, or success? What would it be?
One thing that I mention all the time, and I always usually share it, on social media and this and that. But I think when it comes to a lot of really accomplishing something, that you're passionate about or just accomplishing a goal, it all has to really, it all hinges on how you think. It all hinges on your mindset. It all hinges on your belief in yourself. That's a big thing too that I haven't really mentioned is that you've got to believe in yourself. You've got to, and that's one thing I lacked for the longest time. I think that's the biggest thing that I lacked, why it took me so long to really figure out what I wanted to do, because I was having those really sabotaging thoughts of, like, is this really going to work? Just thoughts like, I'm not going to be able to make this happen. This is pointless, just really just sabotaging myself. And that really in itself is what was limiting me. I was constantly just putting these thoughts in my head that this isn't possible. It's just impossible. It's not going to happen. And I had to really change that. I had to really, again, like I said, I didn't believe in myself for the longest time. I just felt like you know, I did things and then it was kind of like, this ain't gonna happen, it's just, I kind of had that thought process. And so what I'm trying to get across is that if you really want to accomplish something, and it can be anything, it's not just like we're talking about, building a business, but about, your fitness goals or just anything in life, you really have to start with believing in yourself more. You have to do that. And the more that you continue to try to sabotage yourself, to try to think that nothing's going to happen for you, it's going to continue to be like that. You have to change that. You have to focus on, "Yeah, I can do this. It may not be that easy. It's not going to be easy no matter, especially, anything like we've mentioned. It's just not going to be easy at the start. And you just have to get past that, sort of thought process of this, this isn't possible, this can't happen. It's just you have to get out of that thought process. And that's one thing I think that's really important to get across is that you have to believe in yourself, you have to trust in yourself, you have to know that you have what it takes. It's not going to be easy as long as you just keep showing up, you keep trying, you keep learning, you're willing to have, feedback from people, constructive criticism, and you're willing to use that to improve, you're going to get there. But at first, you got to believe in yourself at the beginning.
That is a wonderful answer. Thank you for that inspiration. I feel like a lot of people needed to hear that, including myself. So thank you.
Appreciate that.
Um, yeah. And did want to ask, what are some, other than fitness and nutrition, what self-care regimen do you do on your day-to-day?
So for me, I'm really, I know this is kind of weird, but I'm kind of a geek in a way. So a lot of mine is usually after I get done with my work, I usually play video games and things like that. So that's somewhat of my self-care. But I do, I spend time, reading the Bible. I do pray. A lot of it, of course, I do read every now and then and things like that. But as far as, what I do outside of, I'm a really relaxed person. I'm just, I enjoy being in my own company a lot. I'm kind of an introvert, so that's kind of my thing. But as far as that, when I finish, I just, take it easy and just focus on just relaxing, taking time to myself, not worrying about, everything else. Um, but I think, one of the biggest things, of course, is praying because I do pray often. And that's one thing that really helps to calm me, to get me through, even tough situations and just relaxes me. Um, so I think that's a good answer to share with
No, it's a perfect answer. Thank you
you.
for that. And if money were not an issue at all, what would you be doing right now?
I've thought about that before. I've thought about that. I've thought about that question before. And sometimes I think I don't even know if I would really do much of anything different. I would, of course, I would probably live somewhere different. I would maybe live in a different place, or travel somewhere. But as far as what I would do, I would still the main thing that I think is important to me is doing something that's helping other people. Like I think that's still something that I want to do, regardless if I had, like, I would want to have something that had some kind of meaning, I guess, if that makes sense. But if I really, I don't think I would do that much of anything different. And I'm not trying to say that to feel like I'm high and mighty. That's not what I'm trying to say, but I just think that yes, I would live somewhere else, and yes, I would probably travel more because I don't have that opportunity at the moment. But as far as what I would do, I feel like it would still be, trying to help people in some way. Like I just feel like, you know, even if I wasn't doing coaching, like maybe, doing volunteering or something to that effect, I feel like that's kind of where I would be.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that. And Brandon, where can people find you? How do they get in contact with you when they're looking for your coaching program? Um, where can they find you?
So there's a many places. So I'm all over social media. But the main channel that I have, of course, is my website, which I've been working on trying to really make it as user friendly as possible, as accessible as possible. But my website is actually bponlinefitness.com. And that's where I put not only information on just online coaching, but I have a blog that I post on there. I also have live streams that I do weekly that I post on there. And that's pretty much, the main place where you can check out all that I have to offer because you can, sign up to, join coaching there. Again, there's like free resources on there. I'm working on making it kind of a hub for my clients to be able to access, client information and things like that. There's other things I'm trying to do to build onto that website, but that's where you can pretty much, find everything as it relates to what I have to offer. I do detail on there, even if you didn't schedule a call, I try to detail on there, sort of how the online coaching is structured, because I know that it's kind of a new thing for a lot of people, because a lot of people don't really understand how it works. And I try to detail that in there as well so that you don't necessarily have to get on a call to sort of understand what I offer. So that's another thing I try to do on my website, but I try to make it to where it's, not just trying to sell you something, to really give out information, valuable information at the same time, and just to make it accessible. I also have on there, I do a email newsletter as well. That's another thing I forgot to mention. You can sign up on there. But as far as other places, of course, my Facebook, I do have an X account, and then YouTube, I've actually been posting on as well. I post some of my previous live streams that I do on Facebook because every Wednesday at 12 during the week, I usually do a live stream on different, fitness and nutrition topics. And what I'll do is I'll repurpose those so that if somebody can't watch them, they can go to YouTube and it's the full stream is there. I do also try to put like unique, like of more structured video content on there. I'm still working on that because I have so much other stuff that I do, as much time as I'd like to really put into the video side of things. But there's different videos like I've talked about. the difference between pre-workout and creatine, and I've talked about topics kind of like that. But that's another great place. But those are really the main, channels as far as where you can check me out. And yeah,
That's great. Yes. It's bponlinefitness.com, correct?
yes, yes,
Perfect.
that's
Yes.
correct.
I'll make sure to leave all of those links below so people can check them out. Brandon, is there something that you want to mention to the audience that we haven't gone over yet?
I really don't think there is. Well, I think we pretty much covered a lot of things. I think that's it. Again, the one thing I do want to, mention the one more time is all about the self-belief. I still think people really need to think about that more, that self-belief is extremely important, believing in yourself and just trusting in yourself. But as far as that, I think we pretty much covered everything.
Well, Brandon, thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule and being here. Thank you for sharing your insights. Thank you for sharing your business and the inspiration behind it. So thank you. And everyone, feel free to check out Brandon Partin onlinefitness.com. Again, I'll put all the links below so you guys can check them out. Thank you again for joining us on another episode of the Healing Lounge. Thank you.